911, what's your emergency?
Hello, my name is Teruko Nakajima and I need an ambulance, please. Oh, sorry, I forgot to ask. How are you? 友達が待ってるみんなで Since I was very little, I've always dreamed of a safe place. Where can I be safe? And the only place I could think of was my mother's womb. Very quiet, peaceful in the warm water, floating in the fetal position. I am safe. To be honest, I seriously wanted to go back there, and I kind of tried to get back there, literally. To push my head against her vagina a couple of times. I was like, let me back in, let me back in. But she would say no and push me away each time. It was quite a mess. I wouldn't recommend it. My mother was a traditional Japanese dancer. Turned successful housewife and busy drinking and fighting back on my father. My father was a violinist. Turned successful businessman who kept busy beating up my mother. They loved me so much, but they often forgot I was there. My very first memory was when I was 2 years old. My father was smashing my mother with a dining table. I was pushing his fat belly to stop him. My small foot stepped on the big broken glass. Sharp pain shot through my left foot, and the warm tide of blood came out of the cut. I screamed like my body was burned. Thank God my parents stopped the fight and took me to the hospital right away. My mother was never a victim. She always intentionally neglected my father, gaslit him, saying the meanest things to him. My father was not eloquent, so used fists and props, and she would always fight physically in pain. I still remember there was a morning after Valentine's Day, after my father punched her and left for work. She smashed a vase and a gigantic rose bouquet, which he gave her last night, repeatedly stomped on foot, and said to me with a satisfying grin, "Look what I can do." That was pure horror. I have to confess, I was addicted to my mother's smiles. When she smiles at me, I get spotlighted and feel extremely fulfilled with joy and don't care about anything anymore. Everything turns pink. The strongest connection. Oh, Teruko-chan. Super cute. I love you. Let's not go to kindergarten today because I want Teruko all to myself. You are the one and only in the whole world. You can never find another Teruko. Unfortunately, when she was drunk, she would ignore me, smock me, throw baking pans at me. I have many scars on my knees because she would jump off like a moving bike like a gymnast. And I was still in the back with a seatbelt, fallen on the concrete with empty beer cans she left in the basket. Every time she was attacking me, I waited for tomorrow. By tomorrow, alcohol would run out. She would sober up, and my favorite mother would come back. Sadly, she didn't remember anything at all the very next day. I was always talking imaginary things, according to her. One time I asked her to stop drinking. Then she gave me a bone-chilling, stabbing glare, as if I killed her parents. Then she opened a beer can and showed off drinking as punishment.
I hate you. Go away. I should never marry to your father. I miss my daddy. If you aren't born, I would kill myself already and be with him.
I would do anything to get her to smile. But to achieve that, I had to make her happy. Then I realized if I were doing my very best at everything, my mother could be happy, probably stop drinking. My parents might even stop fighting and be proud of little Teruko. My name Teruko means a shining girl. They want me to be a performance artist, and they put me in dancing and singing lessons, and I was all very committed. Soon, I decided to be a star. Not just a star, a superstar! In reality, I was just a cheeky, chubby little kid. Her nose wouldn't be detected from the side view because of her chop cheeks broken neck. I even practiced my autographs in origami paper and gave them away at my kindergarten entrance gate. Isn't it? I also realized that boys in kindergarten loved my bubble butt. Which I don't blame them. I was a sexy dynamite by 4 years old. And I didn't mind showing it off. So I started letting them touch mine. And boys started making a big line in front of me. I was like, okay, you're done. Next. Okay, you're done. Next. Hey, you are here earlier, don't cheat! Because teachers are so concerned about me. It seemed like my mother didn't approve of it. Teruko's in big trouble. My mother must be super angry. What if she doesn't love me anymore? But then, when we got home, my mother said,
Teruko-chan, I love you for being so creative. I am so proud of you.
Oh my God, she's so proud of Teruko! Because they were in danger. He took me to a bush. He started touching me. He pressed me down. I blacked out because of the tearing pain inside my body. I knew it was wrong. But when I told my mother, the first thing she said to me was,
"How come you were wearing the short skirt?"
It must have been my fault. When I was 8, I was with my family on the beach. My parents are by the water. Their backs were facing me. They weren't paying attention because the waves are so loud. I was laying down with a towel on my face to block the sun. A strange man pulled off my bathing suit and took photos of my vagina. I didn't notice him until I felt warm air down there. Once I saw him, I screamed for my parents. By that time, the guy was running so far away. Lifeguards couldn't even catch him. The first thing my mother said to me was,
How come you weren't careful?
"It must have been my fault." When I was 13, someone on the train pretended to be disabled and asked for my help. In the middle of the stairs, he suddenly changed his demeanor, choked my neck, and dragged me into the men's bathroom. I only remember the smell of urine and the cold, slippery floor. When I was released, I forced myself to think nothing ever happened. I didn't tell my mother. The next day I was hospitalized because I kept vomiting stomach acid. They found a stomach ulcer. It must have been my fault. I couldn't be a problem for my parents because there are too many issues at home. We were constantly getting new furniture because my father either threw them out of the window or against my mother. There was a time we got brand new TV every week. Good thing he could afford them. Whenever he attacked her, I've always been stuck to my mother because she is everything I've got. If she dies, I die. I would never ever leave her. But a fear always binded my body. I couldn't do anything but witness. My parents' fights are extremely loud, but our neighbors never called a police. I called once, but the operator didn't seem to know how to deal with domestic violence. He asked me why I called. He seemed annoyed. I was too scared of my father getting arrested and his retaliation. It might escalate the situation. I couldn't ask for help. I wanted to tell him, "Do you understand what's gonna happen to us if you just hung up now?" But he said, "It should be a family issue," and hung up. I felt so alone. When I was 15, my father beat my mother with a vacuum cleaner. He broke her cheekbone and rib cage right in front of me. I saw her blood in the air. She was curled up on the kitchen floor, growling but not moving. He didn't stop. Something in me changed. My body attacked my father like a raging bull, pushed him down on the floor, took his arm right behind his back. I was on top of him. I found a metal statue in my right hand. I was ready to crush his skull. I was so calm. But my mother stopped me. She said,
Teruka, no! Don't do that to your father. Let him go.
So I let him go. But I was never gonna be safe. As soon as I was old enough, I decided to be out of the house, away from my parents, out of Japan. I could have gone anywhere, but I chose America. Part of the reason was my grandfather, who was in the Air Force in World War II and got captured in America. Everyone thought he died, but he was actually held as a war hostage in Chicago. As a Japanese, he tried to kill himself twice out of shame. But Americans fed him steaks, taught him English, and treated him with care. After 4 years, he came back home with a nice long coat, fedora, and healthy body. My family has loved America since then. Another reason was that I don't know why, but the national anthem always made me cry without fail. I didn't even know what they were talking about, but somehow it moved me. I was told it's about bravery and independence. No wonder, it's definitely my song. America's Constitution says life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. In America, your happiness matters. And being Japanese, I wasn't familiar with the idea. Japanese philosophy is that your happiness is not your priority. Your priority is to make sure that you don't cause any trouble for others. Patience, politeness, and dignity are the most important things. I never allowed myself to be happy in Japan. And mainly, I fell in love with New York because I was an artist. If I could make it in New York, I knew I could survive in anywhere. Plus, everyone in America was a hypersexual bat fanatic. And being Japanese, where the kinkiest fetish videos are made, I was overly privileged. So, I moved to New York City by myself. I had nothing but a sexy dynamite body and my type A personality. My visa was easily approved in the United States. I chose NYU grad school at first because it sounded cool. My parents thought that I would come back home after 2 years, but once I moved, I transferred to a professional school of dance in order to graduate ASAP, get a work permit, support myself in this country, and stay here forever. I had a huge guilt when I left Japan because of what might happen to my mother and not be able to be there and protect her. But I had no intention of going back home. Adjust to America wasn't easy. In the very first week, a grocery cashier who was a muscle-conscious, meaty gentleman asked me where I am from. I said, Teruko is from Tokyo, Japan. And he said, "Hey, get the fuck out of here!" I cried and threw away my basket at him and stormed out of the store. He was like, "Oh no, sweetie, I didn't mean it, come back!" I never went back there. Another one was some man who asked me out at a party. I said yes, and later he emailed me. "I can't wait to see you." I totally thought that he was implying to see somebody else because he can't wait. Such an immature cunt. I was so disappointed and blocked him completely from my life. And then my first American friend taught me the phrase, "You cocksucker!" She loved me saying those words and even recorded them as her voicemail. So I started saying to everyone as a greeting, "Hello, you cocksucker!" Until my professor stopped me. That confused the hell out of me because if you really think about it, nothing is wrong with sucking chicken heads or male genital areas. After graduating from a professional school of dance where I majored in Latin dance, I became an assistant to the legendary Maria Torres and worked for her. And then I became a professional show dancer and worked at a bunch of salsa clubs in New York. Dancing on stage didn't pay a lot, but I loved my job and I was so proud of it. Teacher Maria taught me professionalism as a dancer, kept telling me to imagine every single step I make is worth $1,000. I just made $25,000. Thank you. I was constantly harassed in New York. Men jumped on me on the street, groped me on the crowded cars in the trains and grabbed my vagina from behind when I was walking back home. There was one sultry summer night in Astor Place. It was steamy and everybody was horny. A strange man on the 6th train kept rubbing his dick in my butt in the crowded car. He followed me, so I rushed into my daddy for help. He waited outside and gave me a creepy smoke by the window. I asked my daddy guy, Jose, to call the police. But I was so angry I didn't want to wait. So Jose gave me a flip knife and said, Teruko, don't think, just stop. I went outside, and the stalker came super close to me, aggressively grabbed me by the shoulders and whispered, "Come on, do you want it?" The way he whispered triggered my memory of the fake disabled predator who attacked me when I was 13. I turned around and stabbed his right thigh. He collapsed. I casually walked home without even looking back. I washed the knife and gave it back to Jose the very next day. Get the fuck out of here! Because of all the hours I danced in high heels, I got stress fractures on my ankles and couldn't walk for a month. I became completely broke. I had no money to even buy food. But I couldn't ask for help because I was too ashamed of my irresponsibility. I was limping down St. Mark's late one night when all of a sudden an angel appeared. His name was Cliff, a greasy guy in a biker outfit with a long silver beard. Asked me if I was looking for a job. He said it pays $350 per hour plus tips. The job was called Dominatrix. I didn't know what that meant, so I decided to check out the place. It was in a bank building in Midtown, near Bryant Park. When the elevator door opened, I heard a man's weird moans. The air was smoky and sweaty with a distinct smell of sperm. I was like, is this the right floor? An executive-looking guy with an attaché case walked out, fixed his tie, and said thank you to the front desk as he rushed out into the elevator. Cliff gave me a brief tour. There are 5 different themed rooms. Old castle room, office room, hospital room, principal's room, and a regular person's living room. All I would have to do on this job was kick, punch, spit, tie, and say bad words. No hanky-panky. Clients would never be allowed to touch me. A bit of a weird job, but I would be safe. Since I needed money, I accepted. So, I started my training, which paid $200 an hour. First thing I learned was, you don't have to show your skin as a dominatrix. Less skin is more sensual. Next, I was told how to tie a dick and balls to maximize the sensation. When you do it right, it looks like a dick wearing fishnet tights, and balls look like 2 bulging red eyes. And the last and most important lesson was safety. You cannot kill the client. And then I became an assistant of Mistress Katerina. Dominatrix are called mistresses. She taught me how to give the actual session to the clients. It was my very first time seeing grown men crying, panicking, and begging for their lives. Miss Katerina would asphyxiate one of her clients with her own feces. Another client passed out by getting his thigh tickled with a chainsaw. Men paid for these sessions. This job was very extreme, but the work itself was so easy, and I was such a quick learner. Finally, I got my first client. He offered me $3,000 for 6 hours. He requested that I be normal, wearing regular clothes, no masks, no gloves, nothing sexy. He asked me to sit on a metal chair over his naked body and smoke. All I would have to do was just ash in his mouth like it was an ashtray. Piece of cake, forget about it. He came 3 times without even touching his dick. But the third time, his sperm shot up and landed on my left thumb. This was just another man dirtying my body with his sperm. He was just another man using me. His face kept switching to predators in my mind. Suddenly I wanted to kill him, so I stormed out. I realized while the money was great, this was not the job I wanted. The most important lesson was not to kill them, and I was having a hard time with that. So I quit. By this time, my ankles had healed, but my passion for dancing was fading. One day, a talent agent from Los Angeles asked me to call her if I ever moved out there. Maybe this is my chance to become an actor. I was ready to leave New York City. So, I moved to LA with only $300, and I didn't know anybody. I went straight to Little Tokyo, looked up the classified ads, and saw a listing for a hostess at a fancy Japanese club with live music, and started working right away. Japanese culture is very interesting, especially when it comes to nightlife. It's status or gaining face for men to pay ridiculously high prices just to talk to professionally beautiful women. That's it, talking. No touching, no sex, no sperm on my thumb. I made almost $1,000 the very first day. I was a natural at the job. I was like, hello everyone, I sing karaoke, I dance with customers, and I have interesting stories to tell. Customers are drawn to me. I totally forgot to even reach out to the acting agency. Instead, I focused all my energy on working seriously as a hostess. Soon, I got promoted to become a madam. Not a mistress or dominatrix, but a madam, which is the manager of the club. I was good at upselling customers. I analyzed their financial status by checking their nails, watches, and shoes, reading their moods, assigned the best hostess, knew the perfect timing to sell the most expensive drinks. Basically, I was a pimp. And I was good. But the job was extremely dangerous. I almost got shot twice. This is America after all. Drunk customers often fight, and some of them happen to have guns. I met a guy there my very first night. He was a former professional fighter and a bodyguard for the Japanese mafia. Young, simple, illegal, classic outlaw. He was very quiet and always gently smiling. It's hard to believe that he could actually fight. He looked like the penguin from Happy Feet. Surprisingly, he never touched me or anything, but offered me a ride home every night. After work, he would come pick me up, and dropped me off. Waited outside the club from 9 p.m. to 2 in the morning and took me straight home. He lived in the South Bay and I was in Hollywood. I thought that's love. He didn't know anything about my past but offered me protection. He was super shy but somehow decided to ask me to marry him. Before I said yes, I told him that he has to quit the security job because he has to protect me instead of his boss, for a time. It was not easy to cut ties with the mafia. His boss threatened to kill him, tried to hit his head with a golf club. He even crashed our apartment wall with a big commercial trailer truck. So I had to negotiate with the boss and his wife. Since I've known many of the boss's lovers, it was relatively easy for me to manipulate the conversations. In the end, I set my happy feet free. I also quit the hostess club job and we got engaged. We celebrated our engagement properly at the fancy Italian restaurant. When he ordered food, Happy Feet asked the waiter the price of every single dish on the menu. Usually that would be embarrassing, but I knew he had a budget, so I didn't care. After ordering, he put his hand inside of his suit jacket and brought out a tiny Tiffany jewelry box. The ring was made of skinny silver and a super tiny diamond in the band. I cried because I felt loved. It never happened before. The most romantic day ever. I paid for everything so that my parents could come to the wedding. They met Happy Feet a week before we got married. It was so awkward at first, especially since I hadn't seen them for a long time. I thought my parents had shrunk, literally. I guess I became much bigger in America. I apologized for pursuing my career and not returning home. They could have shamed me, but they said instead they were very proud of me being independent in America, finding a husband, and starting my own family. Happy Feet was very polite to my parents, took the best care of them, and I was so relieved that they seemed to like him. We got married on June 24th at a fancy Japanese restaurant in Beverly Hills. We invited 50 people and 200 people came because everyone brought their friends. Even though it was very unorganized, my parents seemed to be having fun at first. It had been so long that I had totally forgotten who they really were. My mother got super drunk at the wedding reception. She kept banging the wall with her back, then vigorously ran around the venue. And she hit my father's head, saying, "Your head is way too big." Then she hit my husband's head, saying, "You have no education." On top of that, she kept kicking his mother's chair. At one point, she looked right at me and said, "You abandoned me." It was a disaster. My husband said to me casually, "Oh, your mom is an alcoholic." I didn't know that's what it was. Suddenly, everything about my childhood made sense. My mother is an addict. The next day, she used the "I don't remember" card again. I lost it. I screamed, "You destroyed my wedding! You've always gotten drunk and say you don't remember, but I won't let you get away with it this time." She cried. It was an accidental intervention, and that day she quit drinking. Happy Happy Feet kept working odd jobs, and I went from a dancer to become a housewife. I wanted to try out what my mother did. That was the worst decision I've ever made. I totally lost my purpose of why I was living. I became so abusive towards Happy Feet, moody and down, exactly like my mother against my father. I called my mother over the phone because I was so lonely. What she said to me was, "Teruko, that's normal. You've always been lonely no matter what. I have always been lonely all my life." I thought, am I gonna be like my mother? After 3 years of marriage, Happy Feet got leukemia. It was impossible to find the proper cure since neither of us had an insurance, a green card, or money. Medical bills piled up on us. I told him I wouldn't mind dying with him, but his answer was, "I don't want to die." My father happened to know the best doctors in Japan, so Happy Feet decided to get treatments there. But the problem was he had to be single in order to get full welfare benefits. Otherwise, it's gonna cost way more than $1 million, and he didn't want to leave huge debts behind. We decided it would be best to end things between us completely. He said he was sorry and thanked me for everything I've done for him. When we filed for divorce, I took over all his debts, $43,000, because I felt badly that I was choosing my dream over my marriage. After the divorce, I was lost. I started thinking, what am I doing? I probably wouldn't marry again. I won't have kids because I hate to have sex. Plus, my womb wouldn't grow babies anyways, because it's been so messed up by the years of anorexia and bulimia. And who wants to be my kid? I don't even know how to protect myself. So, I decided to give my full commitment to my dream to become an actor, taking as much acting training as possible, finding the best agents for me, and auditioning every day. I was so poor, but used to it. I dared myself to make my dream come true. You do acting or you die. I had enormous rejections every day. I felt like I was licking the floor in every audition room, completely vulnerable. To punish myself for not booking a job, I kept vomiting everything I ate. You do acting or you die. Every night, I ran a 10K on Santa Monica Boulevard. I wish I could quit, get a real job, and forget about everything. But I knew that's not what I wanted. A lot of people made fun of my accent, but I wouldn't give up. You do acting or you die. Luckily, I started booking small acting jobs, joined the union, and kept working hard. But then, my acting agency shut down for 2 months because one of the partners started a pyramid scheme, and they had to get rid of her in order to reopen the business. I still have huge debts from my ex-husband. My bulimia got worse and worse. Then one day, while hiking, a man violently grabbed my vagina from behind. His t-shirt said "Dad" on it, so I wasn't careful. It must have been my fault. I was so tired, exhausted. I had no money. I didn't eat. I had a mattress, but slept on the concrete floor because I was so full of shame. I didn't think I deserved it. Around that time, There was a very popular song by Pharrell Williams called Happy.
Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof.
When I listened to it, I cried. I almost couldn't take it. It overwhelmed me, almost scared me. I was questioning to myself, was I ever allowed to be happy? This was supposed to be the happiest of my life. I do what I love. My mother finally stopped drinking. I was working on national TV commercials and guest stars on TV shows. I even got green cards through acting. Why am I so down? Why can't I smile anymore? Why can't I stop crying? I didn't want to kill myself, but I wanted to disappear. I didn't want to exist.
"911, what's your emergency?"
Hello, my name is Teruko Nakajima and I need an ambulance, please. Oh, sorry, I forgot to ask. How are you?
"What's going on?"
I fainted. I can't move. My stomach really hurts. I taste blood on my mouth. I wanna vanish now. But I have unwashed dirty laundry and my room is not cleaned enough. I can't die today. Please help me. Thank you so much for coming. Oh man, there are so many handsome firefighter gentlemen in my house now. I'm so lucky. Life in the suicide ward was so peaceful. No more trying so hard to make a living. No more harassing calls from debt collectors. No more sex offenders. All I did was stare at the ceiling 3 days straight. No eating, no drinking, tears all the time. I realized, oh my God, this is my mother's womb. I've always wanted to be there. I finally made it. I saw a bunch of psychiatrists, gastronomy doctors, social workers and nurses. They were careful not to touch me because I was shaking anytime someone came close to me. They kept asking what happened that day, my life and all. I started to remember what kind of history I have. The doctors and I counted that I've been sexually assaulted 38 times in my life. Been through getting kidnapped, naked photographed, restrained, drugged, beaten, raped, sodomized by random strangers on random occasions in Tokyo, New York, and Los Angeles. I was diagnosed as having major depression disorder, PTSD, insomnia, stomach ulcer, and suicidal. They put me on 8 different medications. Every time the doctors and nurses came to the room, I told them that I didn't have any money and I couldn't afford any of them. They kept telling me not to worry about it. I was a patient in the research program, which meant that I didn't have to pay. But the more I got treated, the more I felt shameful. I almost couldn't breathe. I told
doctor that I am a filthy, dirty, disgusting person that nobody should care about. He said,
Taruko, you are a walking miracle. After all you've been through, you could have either killed yourself or end up in prison by now. You came to America by yourself for a reason. You escaped from all the abuse. You subconsciously protected yourself, and you did the right thing because you deserve to be alive. You deserve to be happy.
I started crying hysterically. For the first time, I was so glad to be alive. I was so happy that I made it to this day.
Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof.
I am a walking miracle.
Feel like happiness.
I am worthy of living.
Clap along if you
I am worthy of happiness.
clap along if you feel like that's what you wanna do. Clap along if you feel like
Right after I was discharged, I started studying Upright Citizens Brigade, the best comedy school ever! And I learned for the very first time I could use all my struggles into comedy. For the very first time, I felt I was accepted, validated, felt alive. Even though I was studying comedy, I respected myself. I learned to ask for help, which was the hardest thing because I truly believed that I didn't deserve it. But once I reached out, something amazing happened. People started supporting me as if they've been waiting to help all along. Of course, the next 5 years are never easy. I went back to the suicide ward 2 more times. But I've been endlessly supported by the doctors, social workers, friends, the UCB community, my agents, and my therapist, Miss Maria, who went through all my problems with me, one by one, every step of the way. I got the chance to sit down with my parents and confront them, how they wronged me, how they failed me. They officially apologized to me. They were willing to admit their mistakes. We made amends. Despite how they raised me, I still love them so much. I've also forgiven all the predators who assaulted me. Some of them probably might have gotten assaulted when they were younger too. We never know what kind of history they've got. Could have been damaged like mine. I still believe in justice. They should definitely get judged fairly. But personally, I grew compassion for them. And now, I am free of anger. I am also completely free of all 8 medications. My career has been growing, and I paid off the huge debts the very next year with all my acting job money. Thank you. Thank you. And with comedy, I am so myself, authentic and invincible. The original Teruko is back. Who wants to touch my butt? Once I am more emotionally stable, my psychiatrist recommended that I get a dog. So I filled out all my application, and a nice rescue organization called Dogs Without Borders chose a baby Yorkie Chihuahua Maltese mix to be my dog.
She was super tiny and fluffy and busy. The first night, I seriously considered returning her. Because she cried, chewed, peed, pooped, and I didn't know what to do. I was afraid that she wouldn't love me because I was so scared to trust the fact that someone could love me and not abandon me. But once I held her, she stopped crying and fell asleep in my hands. That's when I felt a connection with her. I named her Titi, which means tiny Teruko. She reminds me of little Teruko. The only thing she cares about is me, her mother. You are the awesomest. You are the superstar. You are the one and only in the whole world. You can never find another Titi. Last year, I had the opportunity to become an American citizen. It was a serious choice because if I become an American, I would have to terminate my Japanese citizenship, which means I am no longer a part of my family. The Japanese government would literally remove my name from the family paperwork. But I chose to become an American. Because Titi is American, and I wanted to make sure that I match with her. America, thank you for not giving up on me. Even though there are many issues and painful history, America always keeps fighting for a better future. America saved me. America gave me the chance to become who I really wanted to be. I belong here, and I am so proud to be one of you. And I can't wait to keep paying lots of taxes. I love you, cocksucker!